North Korea again fires near the sea border with the South as leader's sister mocks Seoul. Apparently, again in the headlines, his sister mocked South Korea. It says North Korea again fired artillery shells near its tense sea boundary with the South on Sunday as the influential sister of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un mocked the South's ability to detect its weapons launches. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff dismissed Kim Jong-un's statements as a, quote, comedy-like vulgar propaganda meant to undermine the South Korean people's trust in the military and stoke divisions. The Joint Chiefs of Staff said that North Korea fired more than 90 rounds near the rival's disputed Western Sea boundary on Sunday afternoon. It said that South Korea strongly urged North Korea to stop provocative acts immediately. The sister is speaking again. It's never Kim. It's always the sister. And then what we do see of Kim is like these weird clips that obviously at this point in 2023 could be faked. I think it's really weird she keeps talking ever since his brain surgery. Do you? Let me know. We're going to cover a lot of stuff today. In fact, we're going to cover all of the last 24 hours and more. So the 48 hours that has just led up to today. In fact, I'll just go a quick run through of some of those things. We're going to talk about the Middle East escalations. We're going to talk about Japan, NATO, basically Japan teaming up with NATO, and secret UFO meeting. We're going to talk about the mysterious explosion in Texas. We're going to talk about the White House attacked by a vehicle. We are going to talk about top global risks for 2024, including civil war and America versus itself. And of course, water-filled missiles. We're going to talk about why are they probing the sun. We're going to talk about AI restricts entry. We're going to talk about was a portal opened. We are going to talk about another one bites the Putin dust. More sensational EpiPen distractions. So we've got a lot on the docket today. So remember, we will be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. As always, you can find a full bibliography for every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we are going to show you here today over on marfoogle.news.com. Just look for today's thumbnail, click on it, and you will find a full bibliography of everything, every single article, tweet, video, picture, document we're going to talk about today. So there's a lot of great stuff over there. Make sure not to miss that. Let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So a ton to go over, including the mysterious explosion in Texas. That is what is on screen right now. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about a video that is making its rounds. We think we can easily debunk it, but we'll see what you guys have in mind. And then, of course, North Korea. This first story, going back to it, I do feel like most of you are going to agree with me on this, but it seems like, many people have wrote North Korea off. I think that they are going to be used as a tool. We're actually going to cover more stories today that say that they are making weapons for other countries. They're essentially using that country as a black market kind of manufacturer. At least that's what it looks like. We don't know what it's really like there because we only get the snippets that are filtered through the world's media that are owned by the world's elites. So who knows what's actually happening there. But at the same time, ever since his brain surgery, where they actually said that he perished for a few hours, which is weird if you think about it. Back when Kim Jong-un had his brain surgery, they said that he may have perished, and then it was like within a few hours they changed that story, and it's almost like it's kind of like oh, thank you, hon. It's almost like if you were to, like, if the three-letter agencies or something had to meet up in some sort of room and say, hey, we have an opportunity here. We could do something with this. And then put either a sister or somebody close, have somebody that was already on the inside take over, and then they could produce clips of Kim Jong-un and still act like they're, taking over. But at the same time, North Korea is supposedly working with Putin and working with Xi. But who knows? All of those people could be working with the U.S. leadership too. If you look at a lot of the stuff that's been happening, it really seems like we're taking a path towards, well, the same kind of communes that run the other countries. So what do you guys think? Let me know. But Dex, what do you think about them firing at South Korea? Do you think that this is going to pop off?
I think given the response and given the fact that South Korea said specifically that they need to retaliate on any actions that come across at them before they even report it. The most important thing is retaliate first. I think that's that change in their stance and position on this probably will take things to a new level should Kim test the water, so to speak, and go across the border and go directly at them. That's when we'll see something, and we're closer to that than ever before, I think.
And if that does happen, we all pretty much can see that turning into a World War III. World War III is not the end of the world in our view. If you're new here, I think it's the beginning of something entirely different. In fact, we'll talk about that later today. And I hope that all of you end up tuning in tomorrow earlier than normal. We're going to have a Marfoogle News live talking about brain implants, brain chips, all sorts of really, really crazy stuff. So I hope that all of you join us for that. We're going to talk about some really, really creepy stuff that is happening right now. Not to mention comments by the W and the E and the F. That form is essentially talking about how the rich in the future will be able to travel. Meanwhile, we will be restricted and at home. And before we move on, I do want to remind you, all of the great mods, make sure to thank them. They are keeping it awesome down below in the chat. The chat is always pretty busy, so it is not an easy task to keep everybody peaceful and nice to each other. So thank your mods. Of course, you can find all of their own channels over at marfooglenews.com/friends. You'll also find a great list of all of our friendly creators that we've worked with or know in person. These are all great people or great companies that you should go check out. All right, and then Dex, let's have you go over the Israeli strike that kills an elite Hezbollah commander.
So that's the latest coming out is exactly what you just said. Another head commander, this time from Hez, has been taken out in a strike from Israel. And I think what that means more specifically is, as this continues to ramp up, at least the taking of these large leaders is what is the response from the other side. There's been an ongoing push from multiple fronts around Israel coming in from, say, Lebanon and Syria and other locations. Of course, obviously what's happening in the Strip, and even in the West Bank. But still, we've got to wonder at what point will it escalate or will it not? Was this the extent of it? Are we just going to continue to see these smaller skirmishes, or will it get, fully, heavy? I think one of the things we got to also take into consideration is we just pulled our carrier out. We took the Ford out of the Mediterranean and we're bringing it back. It was sitting there off the coast, ready to engage and there to help protect Israel from any type of front that was coming in on them. So that's now gone. Does that embolden these Iranian-backed troops to come in and do more damage or not?
Yeah, and as far as like removing them, are they loading them up with more weapons, more items? Are they refitting them, or are they sending them out somewhere else? I guess we'll see what happens. And then Japanese foreign minister visits Poland, pledges support against Russian aggression. Who else was kind of, when they saw this, was kind of like, what? I mean, I get that, Japan has a big part in the entire world, as far as Japan is connected with almost all of the allied countries, and in fact, all of the NATO countries are really dependent on some things from Japan. But the Japan foreign minister saying that they're going to help with Russian aggression. I guess it kind of caught me a little bit off guard. Japan has always kind of kept their focus on China, especially publicly. You see a lot of stuff about China and Japan being focused on being able to do that. But now specifically visiting Poland and saying that they're going to help with that. This sounds like a pre-World War III type of headline, if I would say so myself. But it says the Japanese Foreign Minister Yoko Kamikawa visited Poland to strengthen ties with the NATO nation, which shares a border with Ukraine. The visit to Poland followed an unannounced, and almost all of them are now, unannounced trip to Ukraine, where Kamikawa pledged Japan's ongoing support in the face of Russia's invasion. We've covered a couple things in the recent past that does kind of involve them, like the U.S. asked Japan to essentially take the Patriot missiles that they were making for themselves. They said, hey, can we purchase those and then have them basically go to Ukraine? Russia said to Japan, you guys better not. And of course, I think that, Dex, did that go through? That just went through, right? They did it, or they're going to do it?
They just went through, yeah.
Yeah. So they ended up essentially helping Ukraine with Patriot missiles. Now, these aren't our Patriot missiles, but they are the same system because we sold that system to them, and they usually make these systems for themselves. They ended up giving them to Ukraine. So there is an involvement there directly with military support and things like that. But as far as the support, nobody else is supporting Ukraine, or at least the world is really not on board with this conflict anymore. It says Japan has pledged $37 million to the NATO Trust Fund for providing Ukraine with drone detection systems. And then, of course, with UKR, the general thoughts on Ukraine versus Russia is that Ukraine is not winning, that Russia has been holding them off. Many taxpayers here in the United States, I don't know how the other countries feel, but many people here on both sides of the aisle feel like it is becoming a waste of money, that the support is not there anymore. Nobody wants to support a losing conflict. And I don't know if there is any people still saying that, Ukraine is winning and they're going to valiantly win. We don't see clips like that. In fact, we don't see clips of Zelensky at all anymore. Have you noticed that? There's almost no clips of him blasted on the front page of news or on all of the channels of him, other than, possibly memes on Twitter. The rest is just kind of gone. The last couple clips in my memory is like him kind of begging people for money. So it's pretty sad if you were fully on, supporting Ukraine and hoping that they were just going to defeat Russia. I mean, what was the end goal? Were they going to invade Russia and take over, or at least get their land back? Well, it looks like it's a stalemate. And now Russia is, I don't know if it gave them new confidence, because we don't know if they're really being the way that everybody says they are, but they sound like they're kind of moved their afterthoughts to NATO nations, or at least that's what they're making it look like. Now, Japanese Foreign Minister Yoko Kamikawa met with top officials in Poland on Monday to strengthen ties with the NATO nation, which borders Ukraine. Kamikawa conferred with the Foreign Minister Radek Sikorski in Warsaw and placed a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. She was also scheduled to meet President Andrzej Duda. It says she began her visit in Poland on Saturday, but interrupted it to make an unannounced visit to Ukraine. It's kind of weird, right? Just left out of the blue, where she pledged Japan's continued support for the country as it tries to defend itself against Russia's full-scale invasion. Japan announced during her visit that it would contribute $37 million. So as far as there's, of course, the Asian NATO, too, that the U.S. is formulating with South Korea, with Japan, and the Asian nations. So they're meeting with all these leaders. So, Dex, how is the kind of Asian NATO then going to team up with the other NATO? That sounds a whole lot like They're preparing for a world war.
Yeah, lines are being drawn and sides are being chosen, and it's very clear that the we have a large set of allies on both sides. And while they may not have specific treaties amongst themselves across Europe to the Asia, it sounds like they're at least coming in and creating their own commitments to strengthen those relationships.
And then before we're going to get into the mysterious explosion, we're going to get into some crazier stuff here too. I'll warn you before the highly, I guess, anxiety causing stories pop up. But before we do, I do want to remind you, make sure to go check out Energy. This is one of the best solar generators on the market. If you've ever lost your power, which most of you probably have, then you know how valuable and how granted we take power. As far as having a replacement power is absolutely something that you cannot put a value on, but you can, of course, go and get one that has unlimited power. This one, of course, gets its power from solar panels, which you can hook up. And then, of course, you won't have to deal with fuel or gas. It is silent, so nobody will be hearing it from 3 blocks away. And it is something that can be expanded up to 96 batteries. Go over to marfugglenews.com/energy and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. And then, Dex, do you want to tell them what happened in Texas?
Well, we don't really know, other than there's claiming there was a gas explosion. But what's happened is 2 floors of this very large high-rise building or mid-rise building, I guess. Um, it's a hotel. It is, I think it's called the Sandman Signature Hotel. It's in downtown Fort Worth, Texas. But as you can see on some of these images, like it's just literally blown out the windows and everything, which is typical of a gas explosion. Um, don't know if it could be anything else, but more so, I also wonder if it's just straight up negligence or if something else was planned here. And I wonder who was there, who may be injured or who may be hurt. They did say there's 21 people at the time that this was posted that were injured, but I don't know about any more. That's a lot of rubble. If you look at some of the other pictures down below, you can see just big chunks of the facade are blown out on the building into the street. Um, Pretty impressive, and probably not something you'd want to live through or experience firsthand if you were in that building, because that's just, whew, imagine.
Yeah, and you could see like a lot of the window frames, they were just straight up blown out of the building. Have any of you seen other theories on what was going on with this whole thing? As far as when this all exploded, is there any side theories that we don't know about? I saw, of course, a couple things on Twitter, but when I followed the rabbit hole down of what they were saying, it didn't really make sense. But here's the crazy part: is gas explosions like this. We've seen them, and there's been declassified stories about this stuff all the way back, at least declassified specific stories back to the 50s and 70s that show that 3-letter agencies or other 3-letter agencies or Mossad or others that take people out this way, turn on the stove. I mean, it's been in a lot of movies as a fictional scene. They turn on the stove or the gas pipe and then it blows up and it gets rid of all the evidence. But was there anybody important in this place, or was it, kind of a nothing? Was there somebody of importance that may have been there at the time that may not be on Earth anymore? So very, very strange event. Of course, that big of one to have that radius. It's really crazy. And then a driver crashes vehicle into the White House exterior gate, taken into custody. Now, we're going to talk about some of the other stuff. If you haven't been paying attention in the last 3 weeks, there's been a lot of chatter about cyber events. The movie Leave the World Behind, of course, came out. And if you haven't seen that yet, I don't want to spoil anything. But in one part of the movie, which is in the trailer, it actually shows Teslas being hacked and driving and blocking roads. Essentially, that was something that was actually out right after a few months after a tabletop exercise where the U.S. government and other agencies actually practiced, and they had a scenario where Teslas and things like that were hacked and used as weapons, right? Well, you actually have this one, of course. You've had this happen a couple times where an actual person drives the car into the event. But I thought, man, there's been a lot of stories like this where the car drives into something. And of course, we've covered this over the last few years. There's been a ton of stories where for a while there, it was like 6 months straight of one person after another going up on the sidewalk and essentially doing a mass casualty type thing with that, right? Well, with this, it's almost like it's pre-programming in our head to see cars being used as weapons. I just wonder if eventually, just like how they use the different bang bang events in public places to call for, to take weapons away, what if in the future they're like, well, people just aren't responsible enough to drive. They're dangerous weapons, right? They can be coordinated and turn into something, or be able to restrict something remotely. If say they are able to go in and restrict your car from driving. With a lot of the electric cars, that would be really easy. They would only have to put a chip in the car and have it stop when they have something remotely. They're already talking about this with something like the chip that if you have alcohol in your breath or if the car detects that you're drunk, by 2025, by next year, they want to put chips in that will be able to stop the car from starting. They also have been talking about limiting speed lately. There have been a few accidents, and there's always been high speed accidents. I mean, it's part of driving cars and having cars in our world. There has been accidents of 150 miles per hour, 200 miles per hour. Usually you hear about these things in the stories from firefighters or truck drivers that see these things, right? It's been talked about since, I don't know, since I was born and way before probably you were born. But as far as they want to talk about limiters and putting ways into cars where they could remotely slow down the car or limit it altogether so you couldn't drive that fast. Kind of freaky. What if they could set the limit to your car at 100 miles per hour and set the police at 110? They would always catch their crook, right? Not to mention, they wouldn't be able to drive 150 because now at this point, they've told it's so dangerous that they don't have the cops follow. Cops won't even do chases anymore, especially with motorcycles and things like this. So with things like this, this is now, I think, 2 or 3 in the last couple years hitting the White House. Watch, this is what is able to make the argument for these kind of things. Dex, did you think about that? Like when they have these kind of events, they could hit 20,000 people and there won't be change. But if they start hitting Capitol buildings or White Houses, things like that, then, watch, immediately they'll use that for, ammo for something like that.
That's a great explanation. I didn't think of it that way at first. My first inclination was it a crazy person? Was it a drunk person? Or was it, somebody trying to create a sense of tea type event? Even though I think that's probably the worst gate to try to drive through, because especially if you're just driving any regular vehicle, because it's made to withstand a heck of a lot more. But anyway, that aside, it certainly is a significant event when this kind of stuff happens at a major building like either the Capitol or, in this case, the White House.
And it was an Escalade with a Michigan State University thing in there with the Virginia plate. I don't know. I don't know. Something about how what are the odds? And then if they do say it was just an accident, it's like how many people are going to accidentally drive into the White House? I don't know. Maybe they were gawking at all the Washington D.C. stuff. Let's see here. Let's go over to the chat real quick. Thank you, by the way, over on D Live. We have Kimbria. Thank you for the diamond. Thank you, Bug Nana, Jammer. Thank you for gifting out a badge. And then Scooby Doo Durite, Fractured Fusion, Poco Loco. And let me turn that off real quick. Hold on. You guys get it. If you can subscribe, that would be great. And then we're going to pop over to you guys in just a second. If you guys want to start doing a roll call, we'll do it right after this article. And then U.S. intel shows China's army had missiles filled with water instead of fuel in a corrupted scandal that led Xi's military purge. So Dex and I were talking about this earlier, and there could be a couple different things going on here. And after this, we're going to talk about the 10 huge risks to the United States. But this is If you know the art of war, there is a saying, look weak when you are strong and look strong when you are weak. We have covered several stories where Xi is essentially purging people. Some of his actual military staff and some of his government staff has just gone missing. Not to mention, they made a spectacle out of replacing different people in top cabinet positions and actually replacing them on the spot. Like they're sitting in their, version of Congress, and they come in, officers escort them out, and then their replacements, which are all military or law enforcement related people, come in and took their place. That's when we talked about how he was replacing everything with a wartime cabinet. Imagine replacing, somebody with a administrative background with a general. Think about replacing your head of, critical infrastructure with a sergeant. Think about replacing, somebody in charge of transportation with a police chief. It's like every person that he replaced was somebody that had that kind of role. Well, just a few months later, all these people are disappearing. People are getting shifted around. Well, they say that it is because of all of this corruption that these guys are disappearing, that they're not doing a good job. But I almost think that this could be purposeful. I'm also seeing a lot of messaging trying to distract you away from the fact that China is possibly trying to go after us. So I don't know. Something seems off. It says China's armies fielded missiles filled with water instead of fuel and arrays of silos with improper lids. Examples of military corruption that led to dramatic purge of top officials. And this is from Bloomberg. It says Bloomberg, which did not name its sources, reported on Saturday that the intelligence indicated Xi Jinping's recent ousting of more than a dozen senior commanders in the PLA stemmed from serious issues with a graft such as these. It said that the purge went so far to axe even a Chinese defense minister, Li Shangfu, who disappeared for 2 months before being replaced in October. U.S. intelligence sources told Bloomberg that corruption was so severe in China's rocket force and that the wider PLA, and it would most likely force Xi to recalibrate whether Beijing can take on any major military action soon. Like, notice, Dex, how they're actually saying, like, well, it's actually making them double think if they can even go to war. This sounds so fishy. It sounds like, if this is from our intelligence, and we don't know because they said they heard it from intelligence, and these sources cannot be named because essentially they're traitors. If you really think about it, our intelligence, if they are telling something, they are either being a traitor or they're doing it on purpose to permeate a message and to get that across. Why is an intelligence, somebody high up with a security clearance, going to a newspaper and saying this if it doesn't have, if this wasn't something like, I believe in the safety of the American people? No, they're just straight up telling state secrets to Bloomberg, right? They're telling them direct intelligence. This is what I've pointed out before. Every day we see something where we talk to 3 officials, that are familiar on the matter but can't speak, because they would get fired or they would get. It's like all of those people are actual traitors, and they do it every day. They talk to the news, they leak crap out, and I mean it's a normal thing, and they get paid for it. Usually that would be treason, something like that. Or they are purposely leaking that out because they are trying to make us think that China is weak or trying to give some sort of impression. Or China could have a hand in that and make everybody think, oh, don't worry about China, because people are starting to worry about China. China just hacked their critical infrastructure in multiple places. And then now I'm seeing certain folks that have a history that literally are not on good terms with the USA saying, oh, no, this isn't China. This could be US. And it very well could be. All of the cyber stuff could be set up to make it look like China. But I also believe that China is trying to do this. If you look at everything they are doing to our country with the stuff that they are putting here, with the amount of money that they are investing into our media and into our social media, TikTok, look at the messaging they're pushing. We know that TikTok is hurting our military. We know that it is hurting people from going and recruiting. We know that they are hacking stuff. We know that they're stealing designs. So how are people going to think that, yeah, if the U.S. is doing this to ourselves, then there are people being put in by most likely a place like China. Like, that's what I don't get. And if somebody's saying elsewise, it's kind of weird if somebody is kind of protecting China. That's what I don't really get. But the Rocket Force is China's main military branch overseeing its nuclear weapons and has been a key focus of Xi's recent push to rapidly modernize Beijing's forces. It's been especially central to China's posturing on Taiwan, with Beijing rolling out long-range missiles on its coast to threaten the self-governed island. In 2021, researchers said satellite images showed China was constructing hundreds of nuclear-capable missile silos in Xinjiang Desert, allowing its arsenal to potentially rival those of Russia or the U.S. And of course, they said that they may be actually buying material from North Korea. But U.S. intelligence said that one example of corruption was the entire fields of silos in western China were fitted with lids that prevented missiles from launching effectively, a source told Bloomberg. So they're saying that the missiles were potentially filled with water instead of fuel, which, that's like driving your car up to a water hose and filling it up with water instead of gas. The car's not going to go anywhere, right? Why would they do that? Why would they not just leave it empty? Like, I don't understand why they would put water in it. Is this something that somebody made up that's just trying to put a message out? And then, of course, they said that they put lids on that wouldn't lift up. So if they launched the nukes, it would just blow up in the ground, right? Or at least that's what a layman like me would think. Or they just wouldn't go anywhere. Something seems fishy about the whole story. Dex, what did you think when you saw this? Like, it just seems weird.
Well, the corruption angle they're running with here sounds more along the lines of, the companies that were working with the government to make, or the officials or divisions that were working to make products and equipment screwed that up, right? They took shortcuts. They saved money. They made the lids wrong, not because they wanted to make the lids wrong, but because they made them cheaper, or they saved money and they put more money in their pockets via corruption. And who cares if the lid wasn't correct? Or instead of bringing the truck full of fuel, they brought a truck full of water. And because water is obviously a lot cheaper than fuel, so they just filled up these rockets with water. Nobody's going to know. And somebody's pockets got lined. That's what they want us to believe.
Yeah, and then they get executed.
I just don't know.
Then they get executed by the Chinese government. I don't think people play those kind of games with their government there. Just saying. Just saying. But yeah.
No, they don't. I wouldn't think they would. At the same time, they do have a lot of corruption throughout their governments and all of the state or provinces and below, and how they're run. But I think they're just trying to push this narrative. This kind of helps pick up everybody that goes, "Oh, China can't build anything. China doesn't have anything. They're weak. They can't build anything that is worth it. It's going to survive." It's just going to feed that narrative, and maybe that's what they want.
And there is a reason why China would want you to think, oh, if it's made in China, it's just going to fall right apart. First of all, that's not why all of the corporations around the world are sending super advanced technology to China to be made by cheaper labor. They have robotic stuff. They're making incredibly high tech stuff for all of our allies. That's what's crazy to me. Is everybody thinks that they're not capable of building stuff. You've gone to school with Chinese culture and Chinese people, have you not? Do you think that those were stupid people? Were those the lazy kids in class that didn't do anything? Or were those the kids that by 5th grade, learned cello, learned every instrument, and were studious because of their culture? It was their number one priority for education. And you think that they're going to then grow up and then go, oh, I can make this out of plastic instead of steel. It will last twice as short of a time span. No. Anything they did on purpose, the crappy stuff that they made for the dollar stores and things like that, was requested by our greediness. If you go over there, you'll get high-tech stuff for cheaper. But again, you'll still get you're able to get that high-tech stuff. Like, that's what I don't get. And then if they took our direct blueprints for our 5th generation fighter jets or latest gen, I don't know if we're on the 6th gen, but our newest gen fighter jets, they're going to follow it by a T. Their screws and nuts and bolts aren't going to be any less good, as less quality as ours. In fact, they're ahead of us in a lot of areas. And the whole thought that they can't make anything straight, this is something that America has taken decades to really figure out that, oh crap, they're not making crappy stuff anymore. And if they keep that reputation, people are not going to be worried about them. Appear weak when you are strong, and appear strong when you are weak. And it's like they purposely want themselves to look like they're failing, they're collapsing. Why would their propaganda newspapers, which have to be approved by Xi himself, somebody who is extremely narcissistic about the whole country, wants, the whole country to think they're doing perfect? Why would their country purposely put out stories saying that they are financially about to collapse? They have to approve that through the CCP. So if they're putting it through those newspapers, the South China Morning Post, if they're putting it through the Shenwen Daily, all of these, you think that they're doing it because the journalists are, busting their balls? No. They can just take those journalists out of the picture. That's how it works there. If they're doing it, I think it's on purpose. And that's, something is wrong. And they're probably working with the W and the E and the F and other groups, and they're bringing in a change. World War III will be able to instantly bring in a change. And as many people have been talking, if the lights go out, maybe not for a year, but even for a week, if the lights go out in the United States, the whole country goes down for 2 weeks because of a cyber event. People will be begging. They will be begging for war, or they will be begging for a change for our own safety. So that's what myself and many others think too. But what do you guys think? Let me know. Let's do a real quick roll call before we talk about the really anxiety-driven stuff. Piercing the veil. What is going on? China makes knockoffs. They do. Absolutely, Magnus. But that's not all they make. And the knockoffs are on purpose. They with cheap labor and cheap materials, they can make the most money. That's greed. That's not because they can't make it. That's out of monetary greed. Tenino, Washington. We've got Joe Scheidt, Occam's Razor, Texas. We've got Orem, Utah. Jordan Brock. What's going on? Rambo's Granny from Wisconsin. Oh, maybe I said the wrong place for you. Sorry about that, Granny. Thug Doug. What is happening? Cowgirl Hippie Chick from New Mexico. We've got Grass Valley, California. We've got London, UK. Enough already. Hey, nice to see you. Dope Ethan. Thank you so much. Brian Stevens. They will usher in the beast. Make it rain, Darth V. Let's see here. I'm Crazy Brumfield, rural Southwest Missouri, USA. We've got FEMA Region 9, Lady L, Lord Andrew. What is happening? China owns Purina dog food. Oh, glad I don't feed my dog Purina. Umpqua River, Oregon, Canada in the house. Linda Hope, Sparky's Run, thank you. Rip Curl Readiness from Southern Oregon. Thank you, Rip, for being here. Marfoogle Bar and Bruging for the Fugin. Lambs and Wolves, Perry Chronicles, Chronicle Tanya Mama. Perry Christmas, Maggie Thompson from Midi Chicken. Hey, that's actually how it's spelled. Scoob's Shed, Houghton Lake, Michigan, and Van City and Fruitland, Utah. Comet Moon, nice to see you. And hey, from Tula, Utah. Buffalo and Australia. Jindabab, Australia. That is really cool. And let's see here. West Cliff, Colorado. Thank you guys, and I appreciate all of you for being here. Mama Kay and everyone that just came in. Thank you. Love you guys. All right, and then let's see here. Dex, this is kind of crazy. So that's one of the top risks, and there's many risks here, is that the U.S. will go to war with itself. This is from Time Magazine.
Yeah, certainly. So this is the top 10 global risks for 2024. Many of them, as you said, are understood, like the Middle East getting expanded, or what's happening in UKR, which I think is kind of we know it's on the outs at this point, but I think they look at it as a bad deal. Things like AI, or the axis of rogues, as they call it. And even the potential, I don't know why they say no China recovery. I think it'd be more like China, starting a conflict, El Nino and other stuff. But the number one risk for this year, given a movie's coming out about it this spring, given. Gilly Bates, as we call him here, said it would happen this year, and it will happen in November when we have a hung event that nobody can resolve, that we will go to conflict, and it'll be America versus America.
And what's even crazier about this is the tabletop exercises that they have been doing actually say the exact same thing. The scenario that they've been putting out there is that there would be some sort of cyber event that would prevent or affect that when we all drop a ballot in the box. And then this event will kick everything off. After the lights go out, that will be the start. And that will be the first shot of World War III. World War III gets all of these countries that have already set up. They've already picked their sides. They're already essentially picking their spot at the table of which table they want to sit on. And with some of their hopes is that the United States will be at the kids' table when they're done with them. It's very, very freaky that they're specifically putting in here all of these things that have been talked about for the last few months. So the messaging is pretty clear. They're putting the fear of some sort of civil conflict, the lights going out, some sort of cyber event that would stop all of this from happening. Now, 4 years ago, I probably wouldn't have thought that this would be very likely, or at least like if there was a threat of it, wouldn't take it too seriously. I think it's going to happen eventually 4 years ago, but wouldn't think like specifically before this. But if you look at what they have done in the last few years since T-Man and President JB went at it, it's like every last thing. If it doesn't work, they just go on to the next. And it doesn't look like that's working. And then they go on to the next. And then that doesn't work. They're going on to the next one. Now it's the EpiPen stuff. It's the judges in Colorado. It's this, it's that. It's constant. And it's never, I don't think it's ever going to stop. They are doing anything they can to prevent, another T-Man in presidency, right? Would I put it past, them for this to happen? Absolutely not. Not to mention, we've seen all of these different countries get tested. All of our allies have had a major hack on them. Now, it very well could be true that all of these hacks to critical infrastructure that are happening to all of our allies, they could leave digital fingerprints to make them look like, say, China. And it could be a third party. It could be a 3-letter agency. It could be something like that. And then when all of this goes down, they know where to point the finger. They go to conflict. And then everything gets kind of set in place. A lot of people don't see why war would be a beneficial thing. But war can do a whole lot for the very, 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 very top. For the very top that owns all of these companies that make weapons, that make all of the parts and everything else for it. For all of the companies that make the different pharmaceutical things that would go into play, all of the medical stuff that would go into play, all the technical stuff that would go into play, all the technology that would go into play, and the companies that would benefit from everything that happens with the war. Not to mention, they would be able to bring in new laws, they would be able to bring in new bills, and in wartime, they can basically take absolute control. And when they take absolute control, they can control and pull the strings whichever way they want. And after this, I believe that they would pull the strings in a way where the entire world would be on a global scale rather than a country by country basis. Everything would have restrictions. This is where I think it's going. And we'll talk about this tomorrow. Make sure to tune into our Marfoogle News video tomorrow. We're going to go live with some really alarming stuff. People do not realize what they're going to do with everything. What the W and the E and the F said. In the future, you'll own nothing and be happy. With Mr. Klaus, I think, said that. That's going to happen. And you'll see why tomorrow. But yeah, the political division, I will attest to this. I had a conversation specifically with a nephew. He's 18 years old. He's about to go to college. I could not believe we were so opposite on every subject. And I pointed out, I said, my daughter has online stuff that she does, and all the online stuff that she does is all a very biased political story. I told you guys part of their story was they did this whole reading English. It's English and writing. All of the stories are from Enrique's journey or this or that. And after we finally got done with this whole section that basically made the student say why it is correct that people need to help refugees and let them across. After all of this, and point out why the author, Sonia, whatever it is, why she's so right about this, it had you write why it's such a good story and all of this. Then it goes right into why different things are affecting our oceans and this and this and that. I guarantee you they're not going to throw in something about the Second Amendment or throw in something like that, right? All of the school, the teaching, all of the stuff that's going on right now, including social media, everything else. I mean, we're seeing young people say that Osama bin Laden had a point and he's great and whatever else. Like, what the hell is happening? If people don't see the last 10 years has been so politically divided that I don't think there's a path forward, because people will not hear each other. Every point I made, they said, oh, that's been debunked. That's this, that's that. When so you think all of media is trying to hide stuff? They are making us all look like we're nuts, like we're all crazy. Oh, no. Talk to him about the certain day where you drop everything in the box. Says the elections have never been safer. In all of history, they are more credible than ever before. The kid was straight up saying talking points. And I said, so do you believe that people should be able to question it? He said, yeah. Well, did you know that they weren't, and that it was just wiped off the planet? Like everything in every social platform, it was just wiped off. If you questioned it, then you were gone. I think this is really going to go a very scary place. And if you don't realize it, then just talk to some of our youth. It's not just a normal, like, oh, every generation thinks that the older generation's different or this or that. All of the things that they are teaching, it's completely from somewhere else. It's like some other leader just secretly slipped in a page in every book, and they're teaching something completely off. When you break the country down to individualism like this, there's no overall system to keep us held together. Some of the stuff they teach, like certain theories, sound so much like what they taught in Germany. Think about this. If you were a certain race of people, there is no forgiveness for you. Because you are that way, you're permanent. Sounds really familiar, right? There's a lot of things that sound really, really familiar. This whole thing of if you are a certain color, then you're just wrote off. Sounds very, very comparable to a previous time in history. So if you don't see history repeating itself, then I do not know what to say. This is why preppers prep. Dex, before we go, we're going to talk about India too. Do you think that we're going to make it to drop a ballot in the box day?
I think they're looking for every possible way to make that difficult. I don't know if it's to stop it or just come up like we saw last round, where they have new ways to fulfill their wishes. And I don't know if we're going to see something as big as conflict, in which you typically never see a change in power when you have a major conflict underway. It's not typical that the voting power will shift that, or if they will create something that's so big that will actually just completely stop it if they can't control it. I think they've been able to control it for a long time, but we'll see. The big powers that be, so to speak. I'm trying to say things here without saying things that are going to get us in trouble, but the powers that be seem to be the powers that be.
Well, in the past, all they had to do is put more money on one side, and when you just had TVs. If you advertised millions of dollars for one person, more people saw that person and that person won. That's all you had to do. You just had to put you had to put more money in this corner for that person to be seen by way more people. And there's a lot of people that just go into the box and go, oh, I recognize that name, and they check it. That's how easy it was to have that work. But now with social media, it's different.
Yeah, but they also put more money into anybody that they wanted to control. They didn't really care which side won, because it was all the same side to them. And I think that may have changed, or at least there's the appearance that may have changed this last time. Well, and I don't know if that shook things up, or if that's just yet another big ruse for all of us.
Well, think about if the person that gets in and somehow wins has enough money to where you're like, I will give you $1 million. And they're like, no, I make that in a day. Okay, $2 million. No, I've got billions in the bank. I don't know. I think they don't like people who can't be controlled and that have their own opinions. Before we move on, make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP. As far as some of the most likely events, EMP and CME are at the very top. Now, a CME will happen. It's a matter of time before a solar event happens. They believe that we are actually overdue, that they happen on average every 140 years, and I believe it's been around 150. As far as a CME, or a solar event, or a Carrington level event, this can actually protect your cars, trucks, and motorcycles, your RVs, your motorhomes, even your home, or even your solar systems or your generators from any of these. Not only that, it can protect you from a man-made EMP, or electromagnetic pulse. It will ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it will fry your device. That way you can get to where you need to go, get home to bug in, to get out to bug out, or to get to a spot and meet with your family. You will get $50 off per device, and that also means if you mix and match, so if you get the home version, if you get the motorcycle version, the car version, the truck version, the micro version, that will apply to all of them. That also stacks on top of their actual discount, which means that if they are having any kind of sale, you will also get our $50 off, which has been grandfathered in. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP and use the code MARV. Also, this is the company that has outfitted agencies like DHS, DOD, and now on the DEMSO team helping the Texas grid. So go check them out and go see especially the EMP Shield Micro. It's all the same protection, but it is about a quarter of the size. And then, Dex, let's talk about the solar observatory. And we actually covered the Parker. We're going to cover both here. Why are they going to the sun? And I want to get your guys' opinions on that. But Dex, actually, before I turn over to you, CMAC, howdy from Fort Worth, Texas. Well, thank you, CMAC, and thank you for the super chat. Gunpowder Production says, did you see the tunnels just found at Chabad Lubavitch world headquarters at 770 in Crown Heights, New York City? I don't think
they're in Screener.
They are in Screener. Okay, thank you. No, I haven't seen them yet, but Dex grabbed them, so thank you so much. Blessings and love in these times, says K. Parker Frazier. Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate that. All right, Dex, let's talk about the solar observatories, and then I'll load up the tunnels that Gunpowder put up.
Certainly. So in a big, I guess major, as they call it, milestone for India, which has been sort of on a roll here with space exploration, they have now taken their spacecraft that's going to be observing the sun and actually achieved and put it into orbit around the sun. So that was, I guess, their next step in this process. And this is placing a research device, if you want to call it that, or observatory within very close range of the sun so that it can monitor or gather information and see what is actually happening with the sun. It's very interesting though, is because this is something that we recently did. We launched the Parker Solar Probe, which was going to be the one that was going to make the closest approach ever to the sun. And many things, I think we have sent things in the past into the sun to get as much data as we could before it died. I don't know how many times we've done that in the past, but we never built something that would survive going into close range with the sun. So the big question, I think, as you asked up front and asked the audience, was what is the reason for this? Are we doing it just because we're worried about solar flares, or is there something else happening and they're trying to monitor why are we sending so many probes? And in this case, probes that are going to spend a great amount of time circling the sun and researching it.
Yeah, and it even points out, it says India joined a select group of nations already studying the sun 4 months after it became the first country to land an unmanned spacecraft on the moon's southern polar region. Is this just like, so the solar observatory that shut down the sunspot, it's like Black Hawk helicopters came in, they shut down the post office, they evacuated homes of anyone nearby. They didn't just evacuate them, they grilled. FBI questioned all of the neighbors. It was super, super weird. They grilled and questioned all of the post office workers if they had talked to the gentleman who supposedly ran this ring. I mean, it was just super, super weird. The thought on that was that they closed the post office down on top of the solar observatory. If you don't know the sunspot story, we made a video on it just a couple weeks ago. That maybe they spotted something in that solar observatory, not aliens, but something coming at us. And when they spotted it, they swooped in and they made sure that this kind of riot-causing, world flips it on its head kind of information didn't get, put in some sort of letter on a thumb drive, something like that. Something you would see in a movie, but it sounded like it almost happened, right? Hoping that they didn't send it through the post office with the vital information or pictures, whatever it may have happened. They said it was because the guy was running this ring of pictures and things that nobody should have, but it just didn't make sense. I believe it's still temporarily closed again. Something to do with they changed why they were closed down temporarily.
It was the season.
It was the season, okay. But we looked and it's like everything was so sketchy about that. And a lot of other solar observatories were shut down. Now you have the Parker probe, you have India, you have all of the major countries heading off to monitor the sun. What the heck is going on? Or are they monitoring the sun at all? Are they up there are they just doing massive launches all the time that they say is for one thing when they're really doing another? What do you guys think? And again, here's the Parker. The Parker Solar Probe completes 18th close approach to the sun. Or something going on with the sun. Who knows? And then this is the video of the... So what do you think? And let's go back to the comment that he posted here. What do you think that these are for? They say it was to expand it, but they didn't get permission, right? It says wild scenes from an Orthodox Chabad, and I don't know what a Chabad is. Dex, did you look up what Chabad is? What is a Chabad? Is that a
I did not
temple?
look it up.
In Crown Heights, Brooklyn, where worshipers clashed with responding NYPD officers, some of the members had illegally built tunnels in an attempt to expand the Chabad. I'm assuming it's a place of worship, but why are they digging tunnels? And then look at what it looks like here. Look at the brick wall here. That just looks funky. What in the world? But it doesn't really show the tunnels in this video. Dex, is there anything that shows the actual... I guess it shows kind of the edge of it. Look at that.
If you scroll down, you may see some others. See somebody climbing out of it.
Let's see here. Let's go back. Oh. Hold on here. So obviously they're pretty pissed off. So then why are they covering it with a sheet or something?
There's a few more. Yeah, I don't know why they're covering it, but I think there's one that's outside where you can see a guy climbing out right below this one.
Okay, why? What? Why? Now, keep the comments nice here. Let's see. What in the world? Church in the catacombs under constructions. LOL. Somebody said, anyone else here that an asteroid might hit this fall with the force of I didn't see what the rest said. So what are they protesting? Chabad is a synagogue. Okay, that makes sense. The guy was trying to escape from arrest. Well, that also makes sense. Preppermint says, I want a hidden tunnel. I think a lot of us do, actually, but why are they doing it? Illegal activity. Well, one thing I will say is there's a lot of media and there's a lot of movies. There's a lot of video games that actually make New York Orthodox say that they've kind of got their own kind of mafia going. I don't know if that's what is going on there. I don't know how much of that is truth, but I have heard that that's a big thing in New York and other places. But well, detail on the tunnels remains scarce, with some rumors spreading. It appears a group of Bajim began digging around 6 months ago in an attempt to expand 770. What? Why? Why?
Some were suggesting these are actually even older, or some of them were older, that they had built some back during CV time when they were locked down and not allowed to go. So they would use those to get to the Chabad.
Which was really stupid, regardless of what religion you're a part of. Nobody should have been stopped from going to church. Like, they should have come up with any way. Heck, even during the stupidest times, they could have let people go in a bubble or something. But they literally stopped church for months. That's just nuts. Judy Bira, wee ones, taking them. I don't know if that was it, but I wouldn't be surprised by anything at this point. They may fear persecution. Could be. Could be drug or other trafficking. Yeah, that is wild. Thank you for letting us know about that, Gunpowder. And then a 310-pound AI cat flap automatically stops your pat from bringing dead prey into your home, and even films attempts so you can watch it back. So, by the way, most people are like, oh, this is so stupid. There's a reason why we saw this and go, whoa, this is freaky. So, first of all, let me show you the original. Let me make sure that there's no crazy pop-up here. There usually is. So let's show you this here. Pause this. Let's see. Gosh, it won't let you pause, can it? Okay, so it shows the cat, with the whole thing here. And then it shows that it will stop. If it brings you a dead rat or a mouse, then it will stop it, right? Well, here's the thing. This is AI technology that allows you to enter, right? The cat to enter. But if the cat enters with a certain object, it will close it and it will not let it enter. Think how that could be applied to humans. Think about this. If you walk into Walmart and somehow they detect that you have a carry or concealed weapon and it doesn't let the door open. Now, most would say that's a good thing. But what if in the future they use this for other reasons? Or what if you don't have something they don't let you enter? What if you don't have a certain object or a certain pass or a certain implant or a certain mark. It's kind of a freaky to think about where this could go in the far future or near future, depending on how you look at what is going on. Dex, I mean, most people are not going to go get themselves a cat door that stops them from bringing it in, but I bet there's probably a few people out there that would actually like this.
Well, I've seen occasionally the dog would bring something in. I don't have cats, but it would be nice if they didn't drag in their prized possession from the outdoors. But nonetheless, I think more importantly is the fact that AI is being applied to entry and exit, so to speak, from buildings or, in this case, a residence. But like you said, in Walmart or whatever, certainly you're denied access to Costco if you don't have a Costco card. I mean, that's, or they, tell you to go to get a guest pass. And, there's certain rules that are out there that we do live by. But, thinking that they're going to, detect or look at you and determine with an AI system whether or not you should pass entry through a door. That's kind of a creepy futuristic state, and we're headed directly for it. It's coming. It's not that far off. It almost reminds me of the facial scan to enter the gas station that you used to show. Remember that one?
Yeah, if you don't know, my wife and I were in Tacoma, Washington, and it was really kind of surprising. It was in a pretty it was it was one of the worst neighborhoods in the area, as far as a lot of dilapidated homes. There was no money put into the city, tons of potholes. I mean, it was really bad. A lot of the homes were 100 years old. A lot of old homes. You could see 3 or 4 homes per block that were boarded up, that were spray painted on. It was that kind of neighborhood. The gas station there had such bad crime, they were one of the first to test facial recognition for entrance. So I entered just fine. I went in and we had our kids in the car. So I went up to it and it basically just green lighted. And I'm like, what was that? By the time I get out, I'm like, holy crap, that's facial recognition. I didn't even notice it. I just kind of looked up when the door locked and it opened. And I'm like, what the heck? Well, then my wife's like, no way, it's facial recognition. I went and got video of this to do a video on it. I stood across the street. My wife went up and it actually did a red and it said, you cannot enter. And it confused my wife for somebody else. And it pulled it up on the gas station attendant's thing. And it said that was a thief or that she was a shoplifter. Well, she had to knock and she goes, no entrance, no entrance. She did it twice. And then when she brought her in, she pulled up the picture of who it said she was, and it was a totally different person. It was another blonde woman. Well, the gas station attendant says, sorry about that. It rarely gets it wrong. It was super freaking weird. She was super nice after that. But my point is, what if you only have cash? You can't enter the gas station to pay for your gas? Like it's freaky. It has a red and green. If you get a green, you can enter. And you have to look up. It says they will not open it. The gas station attendant goes, look up. And they're not allowed to open it. And of course they're testing it into a poor neighborhood where there isn't a bunch of people that will organize and gather and say, we don't want this in our neighborhood. They're just basically gonna deal with it. Like that's what's stupid. And they're testing it. They see the response it has, and I don't know. Maybe they might have removed it by now. Some could argue that it was a good thing for the safety of the employee, but I don't know. It's they had a lot of robberies at that place, I guess. But either way, pretty crazy. Okay, now I'm going to show you this. So this has a crazy history, and the history of this whole video, we tried to debunk it, and really we looked way too hard to debunk this when actually I think it can be debunked pretty easily. But the weird thing is this video that is supposedly in the Miami Mall actually does have some weirdness because it looks like it's in a mall. It looks like something pops out of nowhere. It looks like it shocks people, like they jump back. And then it shows people walking up like, oh, is there something there? Now, this very well could be from an Asian movie. It could be from a Chinese or Japanese movie where they show a CCTV camera. It could be from a real CCTV, and we believe it was during CV because everybody's wearing face coverings. And who knows, it could be a video of an alligator going into a mall and everybody gets shocked by it and sees it and then walks back up to it and says, oh my gosh, is that a real? It could be a prank, a TV show. But mind you, the video, which a lot of people believe is real, it says new footage of the portal inside the mall just leaked. So let me zoom out here if I can. Some of you may have already seen this. So check this out. Let's see. No, let's stop the music there. Okay. Let's turn this on. Okay. All right, so check this out. Shows the end and then it repeats. This is Okay, do any of you see a problem already? So I just want to repeat. Go back to this. This is the ending. So it really starts right here. So people are sitting in the mall. And then you go to this. It pops up. You actually see somebody fall over in such a shocking, oh my gosh, people are grabbing people and running. There's a couple people grabbing their phones out. Right here, there's a guy with their phone. They're not moving. They're like, oh man, this is opportunity of a lifetime. I got myself a viral TikTok. And then it closes. And then people start walking back. And now, get this, and go up, and it's like they touch it, and then it ends. So first problem, and we looked for the original clip. We tried to find, if it's before this event, then obviously you can debunk it and say it's not the mall. We actually couldn't find that. We found a website of 2016 that essentially the video was removed. It looked like it had a preview, but then we saw in the preview that was archived was not it. So it was not that one. But I then took me forever, and I don't know why. At the very end, I go, wait a second. This is a black and white camera. And the orb is somehow in color. It has a hue to it. It is orangish. Unless any of you can tell me how a black and white camera saw orange in this thing, or anything that would affect the CCTV camera that would show some sort of tinge to that. Maybe if it was on, night vision or something. But yeah, people are saying that this is real, that this was inside the mall. Yet there's a ton of people wearing coverings. I don't know. Doesn't sound like Miami. Doesn't sound like Florida, at least. I don't know how Miami is. Maybe Miami's sort of like the Seattle of Florida. I'm not familiar with the East Coast. Dex, is Miami like a Seattle? Would there be a lot of people covering up right now or recently?
I don't think so. I mean, it is a little more on that side, but not that bad. Party town.
Somebody says, I'm not sure it looks real. I mean, by the way, when I first saw it, I go, that is convincing. What I posted on Twitter is I said, this is a good hoax. Like Dex said, though, when we talked earlier, you said, yeah, they should have just blacked out the whole thing. They should have went black and white on the whole thing. Because if they did, then there wouldn't be that argument. Photoshop. And I thought, yeah, right here before it pops in, it's like they easily could have just removed object. Anything could have been there. But now it kills me. What was the original video? What were they afraid of? Or was this as part of a movie that is just like some Filipino movie or some, foreign film that nobody knows what the name is. That's not been seen by anybody. I don't know. What do you guys think it is? Some folks are torn on the whole Miami Mall incident, but what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And then Dex, do you want to talk about another one bites the dust?
So get this, the head of Putin's state-run TV empire, Zoya Konovalova, 48, is now found perished with her ex-husband after being poisoned. This is not the first. I'm definitely not the first of elites or top leaders or other things. We hear about that all the time, especially those that just mysteriously, strangely fall off of balconies. She's also not the first in the TV business, so to speak. I think there was another one that also was in the media business there. The newspaper, I think it was, that was also uh, taken out. I think it was Anna Tesvara, 35, deputy editor-in-chief of Putin's favorite propaganda newspaper, was also found perished last month. So, coincidence? Probably not, especially given the country and the fact that this list goes on. I mean, it's almost like the stuff that happens around here that everybody likes to blame on the folks from Arkansas. You know what I'm talking about. Um, it just seems like there's this laundry list of people that just, keep getting unfortunate timing of the ends of their lives and their relationship with Putin, either for him or against him. It's happening on both sides.
And we covered the other channel that had somebody that went missing. But who knows what's actually happening over there? Maybe they are struggling. But many people believe that they are getting ready for something even bigger. Stephen McMahon says Gavin Newsom or Michelle will be the Democrat candidate. Their convention in Chicago in August is going to be a real riot. The Michelle thing has been rather recent. Even Derek just put on Twitter, that will be the next candidate. Newsom, I totally have seen for a long time. And I was just talking to my aunt about this yesterday. How just out of nowhere, Gavin Newsom surprise visit to to China. There have been high-ranking political leaders. There have been super celebrities. There's been all sorts of people that have gone to China and have never met with Xi Jinping. Gavin Newsom goes and gets a private tour with him and goes and checks out his the electric cars and plays basketball with some of the elite school's kids. And it was like, it was totally a introduction run or something. It's like, oh, there's our guy. It's freaky. It's freaky to think about, especially with the connections that everybody believes are there with China and certain people here. California definitely has a lot of things happening that really looks like it's taken, I don't know, a China route. But that's just my opinion. What is yours? Let me know in the comments down below. And then Judy Bira says, thanks for saying my name. I watch you all the time. Ellen said my name once on TV. Yours was a bigger thrill. Love bucket list. It's true you don't have to buy a super chat, so thank you for being real. No, you don't. And again, Judy, I hated reading that comment because that's like, I wouldn't want to also say it puts us in the same category as Ellen, or daytime television or something. We're just a small internet channel, so thank you, but we appreciate it. And honestly, I know what you mean. I listened to like a little independent radio station, and it was like I sent in a manual letter to that station, and I remember when they read my name off, and I won like a pair of movie tickets. Like, it was the hugest deal to hear it by this person who was the radio announcer. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I get what you mean. But yeah, that's why the Shoutra is there. That's why you never have to do a super. I think I've said pretty much every name that exists in our chat. Like, and I mean, it's crazy to think that that's something that that's why I said, if people appreciate it, we will do it. And that is our thank you. Like, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching our little channel here. And then before we move on, make sure to go check out Prep. This is our recommendation for very affordable freeze-dried food. It's freeze-dried, so it'll last 25 years. It's going to last a very, very long time. Plus, it's inflation safe. This is just a safe route to go because if you don't know why, freeze-dried food is great. It preserves better than any form of food preservation. It keeps in almost all of the flavor, and it keeps in almost all of the nutrients as well. It is a process that also keeps it for so long. So as far as this food will be good until 2054. I can't believe it is now 2024. So yeah, that's pretty crazy to think that you'll have food until the 2050s that you can just basically pull out, open up, add water or cook in water, and you have yourself a meal. I can only imagine as far as how much food has gone up in the last 5 years. In 5 years from now, with food cost, the same goes for freeze-dried food. Now, freeze-dried food isn't the same cost as regular food. There's a whole process that goes into making it. So freeze-dried foods has tripled in cost in the last 3 years. In fact, that's why we tell you guys about, Harvest Right and the machine so you can do it yourself. You can save a lot of money. But prepackaged freeze-dried foods like this, they have tripled. In another 5 years, I can't imagine where they'll be. But emergency food like this is just an amazing thing because it takes up almost no space. It lasts a very long time and it comes in clutch when you need it. But is in 5 years from now, if food prices have gone up another 50% or 100%, or this is tripled 300%, you won't have to worry about that and you'll still have 20 years left on the shelf. Same within 10 years. I can't imagine what food cost will be in 10 years from now. Again, you'll have it for another 15 years. In 20 years, if you have a baby right now, they will be a full-fledged adult, almost going to the bar. You will still have food, which is really, really cool. Go to marfooglenews.com/prep. The greatest part about this is not only are you helping yourself, you're getting yourself set for, of course, any kind of disaster. It doesn't have to be an end-of-the-world disaster, but you are also helping our little independent channel as well. Thank you. marfooglenews.com/prep. And of course, you will get a huge discount. There are several discounts running right now, so make sure to go check for the current one. And then EpiPen accuser claims that the file had sex of not only our former president, but Bill and Prince Andrew and Richard Branson. Now, out of all of them, Richard Branson, after seeing recent clips of him not only dressed up as a stewardess, him having, I don't even know who was doing it, but he was like, wasn't wearing the bottom half and having women shave his legs in public with cameras all around. It's like, after seeing some of the crazy clips, I'm like, yeah, that's totally believable. He is so creepy when he gets dressed up. I'll tell you that. But they're saying this, and T-Man, of course, people have gone back and forth. Either way, I'm not surprised by the timing of all of this. And here's what makes me suspicious about the EpiPen stuff. Not only is it now like front and center, instead of them trying to distract away from it, this is seeming like they are trying to make you look at. All of the celebrities mentioned, their lives are basically screwed right now. So they are, at the very least, if this was something that was done on purpose to try to screw people over, if they were doing this to screw over T-Man, there's a lot of people that had to bite the dust too for them to do that. But here's the thing, and I look at everything and I try to be unbiased and look at it and be like serious about this. The accuser, the one involved with all of this, retracted their claims, which almost everybody's going to go, oh, well, of course you did. The people involved probably, and it said for fear of their life, right? We all believe that. But they also then said that they not only retracted it, but a lot of the stuff that they said about the other people, Andrew, and which again, you think it's a royal family, so they could do anything. But with Branson, the timeline on a couple of the things didn't work because he was somewhere else. So they said that these were baseless and unfounded claims. But not only, it wasn't the actual woman that says that she had the relations. She said that her friend, the friend that she had, which nobody knows who this is, that she had videotapes and that she sent her videos, but she couldn't share it because she didn't have permission to. So it's basically like a she said thing. So it's third, but of course, are they still going to put it out? Yes. So if there's virtually no proof of it, and she retracted her claims, and the claims are that her friend had all of these things. Do I believe that these things happened? And especially with Mr. Billy? Yes. Especially with Mr. Andrew? Yes. With T-Man? Maybe. With Branson? I think a big old definite on that one. But either way, it's like when this stuff happens, it's like you can't use that. They're able to, you are guilty until proven innocent in our new world. And the social media is a court in itself. Something like this comes out, it can heavily affect people. But then you also have to look at it and go, well, every trick in the book has been there to try to stop. I guess I always root for the underdog. Like, who do they not want running? I guess that's the person I'm always like, yeah, that's the guy. Or that's the gal. But it says Sarah Ransom, in a string of emails in 2016, also claimed that she had copies of tapes EpiPen had made of some of his higher profile friends, including T-Man, former President Bill, Prince Andrew, and British business magnate Richard Branson, allegedly having relations with unnamed women. She confided in me her casual friendship with Donald T-Man definitely seemed to have a thing for her, and she told how it kept going on and how he liked to do things. And you guys can go read it yourself. There's actually a warning about some of this. But it says down here, it said that it was all her friend. So it doesn't say it until the very, very end that these have now been claimed as, what do you call it? Baseless, unfounded, all of that. It also doesn't say until very late into it that these aren't her claims, that they are her friends. Dex, go ahead.
When you read some of this, you could also infer a potential opportunity that she was trying to protect herself against these people, because she said, my friend had this, my friend had the tapes. I eventually managed to persuade her to send me some of the video footage, which she kept, implicating all three. And I have backed up the footage on several USB sticks and securely sent them to various different locations throughout Europe. That's the kind of thing you would do to have your own, your own protection, so to speak. So it could easily be done. Not that it was real, that it was just said as a form of her trying to protect herself against some of these folks, or against what was going on at the time. I don't know. But like you said, the whole thing was sort of also dismissed, and she even said, no, it was all fake. It wasn't real. I retracted it. It didn't really happen. And so, but they have to release it because it was part of the evidence. So of course the media is going to run with the headlines. They're very sensational, especially all these names and some of the things that they said in there, it's crazy.
Yeah. And pretty much everybody. And what's so crazy is all of the celebrities that are involved. It's like when you hear the claims, all of a sudden you have now thought in your head about that celebrity and then them doing those actions. Whether it turns out that they were just thrown under the bus and they weren't actually a part of anything, doesn't matter, because now people have that in their brain. Especially with some of the celebrity. What's the guy that was the head of House of Cards, that show? Which it's crazy because that show,
Kevin
Spacey, that was a good show in my opinion. So some people don't like it, whatever else. It showed all, I mean, it was disturbing, and it was, I guess you could, I don't know if you could, I thought it was more realistic than not. After reading the declassified stuff from the 60s and 70s, I went through a couple years where I dug into these like 90-page files released and things like this. And it was like, a lot of this stuff has happened in real life. the US and other countries, almost every country in the world is taking people out. That's so crazy that if I go take someone's life, I go to jail for life. But if a government does it, it's for your protection. They have taken innocent lives, people that simply might have walked by a window and looked inside at the wrong time at the wrong place, right? And for national security, they can take that person out. That's really disturbing. Like, this is where we're human beings. We're so evolved, but yet if somebody walks by and sees a state secret, they're gone. They're goners. And that state secret might not even be something you would think would be that, that kind of thing. It might not even be corruption. It could be, oh, they walked by and saw a piece of paper that said an asteroid's going to hit in 2030. Well, that person can't share anything. We got to tie that loose end. So with this kind of stuff, it doesn't matter if these people really did it. They're guilty in the eyes of the people. But then you also think, gosh, they really did this stuff. That is so disturbing that there's this entire world right above us. They have so much money, they can get whatever they want. And once they have everything they want, they just keep going to new levels of doing disturbing things. But on top of that, then you go, well, you can only go so far with that. Some of the stuff they were doing is straight up ritualistic. That's what's freaky. Because if normal people actually dug deep on what they were doing and the stuff they're doing, then you start realizing, oh, wait, are all these crazy theories about what these people doing true? That's what's freaky. It's scary. But we're in the Matrix. We only see what we are meant to see. We're in the we're this guy, right? They live. That movie was an allegory for real life, I'm telling you. Rod Piper, isn't that Roddy Rod Piper? I always mess his name up. And then inside Jeffrey EpiPen's Superhumans plot behind wild Stephen Hawking origin claim. So Stephen Hawking has been talked about for the last few days. Even my daughter's 20-year-old friend was just like, oh my God. They've now made jokes revolving around Stephen Hawking. And you think about it too. It's like with the whole thing with these claims, Stephen Hawking, up until these things all came out, he was one of the most respected scientists, and everybody said he was a super genius. There was never a negative thing about him. Now, I don't think there's going to be anything positive. And probably, again, they said that he had a lot of crazy stuff going on. So I will let you pause and freeze that. But man, there is a lot of really crazy stories here. They're talking about that he actually had organized gatherings of people, specifically on the island. This is just, what a time are we living in? It's absolutely nuts. Did you hear anything negative about Stephen Hawking up until this whole thing happened? Dex?
No, I didn't.
I've never heard.
But how about EpiPen wanting to create superhumans?
Oh, yeah,
using AI and genetic engineering.
So,
and that's how he got and that's how he met up with Hawking.
So think about that. And well, we do know, because a lot of the financiers that he went through, these were all people doing just absolutely insane kind of research. He had people in cancer research. He had some of the most respected doctors in the world going in that list. The bigger list of it, he had all of these people that are high up involved in cures and in treatments and things like this. Oh, and human genome editing and all of these things. Why is somebody who also runs this really disturbing thing, why are they also directly connected to all of the people that could be evolving humankind? it makes it even more disturbing. They met and they talked about creating superhumans. And then at night, whatever they did when the doors closed is even more disturbing. So we are just like, what kind of world? People think that one thing or the other, oh, that sounds crazy. Oh, yeah, sure. They're all together trying to, do a mass plot to keep us in the dark. Okay, sure. But then when you read what they are accepting as actual truth, the fiction or the truth is stranger than fiction. And I don't know what's fiction anymore, because at this point, almost every futuristic fictional movie is now coming true, because they were just basically people with ideas that, oh, well, that could never happen because we don't have that technology. Oh, wait, now we do. And now it's all happening. Well, and I was talking to my nephew and he says, people forever have been saying it's end times. We hear that a lot here too, because a lot of folks say it's end times. I'm not saying it's end times, but would I doubt that it is? And would I be surprised if it is? Why is it different now than it has ever been before? I think it's different now than ever before because, yeah, people always had their kind of the fourth turning kind of thing happen before, and disasters, and it could have happened many times where there were these massive disasters. But why now is because no other time in history, in the 1500s when they said the world is going to end, did we have technology like we do now. In the last 100 years, in the last 150 years, we've had electricity. Some could argue we had electricity before, huge disasters, that we may have even had nuclear weapons, ancient nuclear weapons. We just covered that the other day. But at the same time, have we ever had technology that could truly destroy us or that could truly evolve us? No, we haven't. And maybe we get it to the point of evolution where somebody comes back and comes and grabs us. Who knows? Dex, what did you think of the, what do you call it? Oh my gosh. Oh, I guess give them a teaser of tomorrow's video of what we're going to be talking about tomorrow.
Oh, wow. Well, I think the future of how we're going to perceive the reality that we either are living in or we're not is how I would put it. And whether or not we're going to find out more about what that reality is, or if we're going to crush it down to something that we're not going to like. I'll leave it at that. That's pretty vague. But yeah, we got some really cool stuff we're going to talk about tomorrow.
And why don't you let them know how they can get to the website?
Certainly. Head over to marfooglenews.com. Click on the thumbnail for the show, or much more easily, look in the description down below. If you don't know where the link is, it's the first one. It says show notes link. You click on it, it'll take you to the webpage. You'll find everything we just talked about. It's all right there for your perusal. If you're looking for the extra details, marfooglenews.com. Click on the thumbnail for the show.
And of course, you can access all of the videos, all of the tweets, all of the links, all of the sources. We do this before every single show, so make sure to utilize it. Not only that, there's a lot of work that goes into the show, so if you can, please share it out with a friend or family member. That would be very much appreciated. I do want to say thank you to several people today. Judy Bira, thank you so much for your support. Thank you, Stephen McMahon, Gunpowder Productions. We had Kay Parker Frazier pop in. I believe she was first there. Thank you so much. And over on D-Live, Kimbria, thank you. I very much appreciate your support today. And Scooby-Doo Do-Right, Jammer, Fractured Fusion, One on B, Beer Juice, J-Girl, that's me, and of course, Scooby-Doo Do-Right. Thank you, and thank you. Everyone, have a wonderful night. Make sure to thank your mods. Again, you can find them over at marfooglenews.com/friends. And then if you have interesting stuff, if you have an interesting video, send it and submit it to marfooglenews.com/playmyvideo. Again, that's marfooglenews.com/playmyvideo, or go over to the tab at the top and you'll find our page. You can actually submit your videos after you've uploaded them to YouTube. Very easy to do. So if you have something cool you just caught, or something happened right in front of you at the grocery store, or you saw a train going by with crazy stuff you don't know what the heck it is, send us the video. Go to marfooglenews.com/playmyvideo. And thank you to everybody in 2023. It is the new year now, but a big thank you to everybody that supported through PayPal. Linda S., Dawn D., Jacqueline L., Dean G., Jeff B., Lisa H., Sheila B., Tony D., Joanna H., and many more. Thank you, and thank you guys. We appreciate your support, and thank you for supporting independent. Somebody asked what I was talking about with Harvest Right. You want to go check them out? You can. marfooglenews.com/freeze. Those are freeze dryer machines where you can actually freeze dry your own food, and it's about a 25% of the cost of buying it pre-packaged, but you do have to invest in the machine. The great part about that is you get $300 off with our code. And again, that is something where you can get any of the pro models. A very easy machine to use. You can pretty much freeze dry anything and everything and preserve it for up to 25 years. Dex, thank you so much for your service today. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
All right, you guys, be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. Love you. Bye-bye. It's time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. All right, we're gonna make a fresh one for Judy Bira. That's a good one. All right, so we are making a fresh one for Judy Bira. Judy, thank you. And again, thank you for being top supporter tonight. Thank you. And cannot say thank you enough to everyone that has popped into the show and stayed around for this many years. Love you guys. We're going to put the chat here up on screen. And of course, if you're in the chat, you'll be ported over to Marfoogle Jams.